Hello, amateurs. Welcome back to another episode of the Amateur Rugby Podcast, here to help soothe your Sunday morning hangover with some wonderful rugby chat about the grassroots of the game. I'm your host, Tim, and I've got another wonderful guest for you today. This man has had a bit of a nomadic playing history. He started his coaching journey while still playing, and he absolutely loves defence. Please welcome Mr. Adam Higgins. Higgo, how are you doing?
Very well, Tim. How are you doing? You okay?
Very well. Welcome to the show. Now, what I'd love to start with is, could you just tell people what you've been up to this afternoon?
Yeah, of course. So just cycled back, you tell from my hair. We hosted My Time Young Carers at Ellingham Ringwood Rugby Club. So there's an event which we've held for young carers to come and try out rugby. So I think they do various different sports, but today it was rugby. So we had ages from 5 right through to 13 come down to the club. And we ran various different drills, just getting them a little taste and a flavour of the game. So really nice that they can kind of come away from, whatever's happening at home or the situation they have to the rugby club and just experience rugby. So it was really good.
Fantastic. And how did that get set up? How did that get started?
It's a good question, to be honest, Tim. I'm not sure exactly. I volunteered today, so the playing group got approached by Mark, our DOR, just to say, is anyone available, can come down, and volunteer days and bits like that people have available through work on a Tuesday afternoon to be able to come down to the club and help out. So yeah, a few of us down there, which was great. So really good to be able to offer a hand and host.
Fantastic. Great to hear. Tell me a little bit, how many numbers did you have and what was kind of the general feeling throughout and then maybe after?
Yeah, so I think we had 38 turn up. As I say, very varied in terms of age group. So there's stuff like rugby, netball, some classic evasion of poles, bit of handling, touch rugby. What they really wanted to do was hit bags. So for me as a defence coach, it was great. So they were really, really keen to just be jumping on bags and experiencing just a bit of contact, bit of push and shove. So obviously it had to be managed in some respects, obviously with some of the younger guys and girls, but it was really good energy and a really good vibe.
Fantastic. Well done yourself, and well done Ellingham and Ringwood for setting that up and putting some good into the community. Good stuff. Now, you mentioned defence there. Defence coach, love defence. Tell me, why? What is it about defence that really grabs you?
Yes, I guess most people will be drawn to attack because it's always nice to have the ball. But being a Manchester United fan for my sins, I've always lived by an old Alex Ferguson saying, which is, attack wins games, but defence wins titles. So not saying that Ellingham and Ringwood are going to win every title every year, but what we're looking to do is just instill a bit of excitement around defence. So if I can get people energised and people wanting the challenge of defence, because let's be honest, anyone can attack. In defence, when you haven't got the ball, it's how you react and how you position yourself on the pitch. So I've always lived by that. Defence wins titles, and a team's only as good as their defence. So if I can bring in principles or a structure that a team can feel comfortable in and be excited to defend, then I've done my job. That's kind of what I'm looking to do now.
Wonderful. Okay, that is interesting because some players are naturally excited to defend and some players are the polar opposite. So Let's talk about some of the little tactics and things that you're bringing in, or sort of strategies maybe to try and get everybody on the same page, to try and get everybody as excited as each other.
Yeah, it's not an easy transition, I think, for people because I don't think in the amateur game defence has really been put under a spotlight. So there'll be a lot around kind of attacking structures, and we probably talk about that later when we talk about defending and how to do that. But for me, it was firstly the excitement was the first part. So in the first meeting I had in pre-season last year, I had a big presentation on screen. These are our defensive principles, this is our philosophy. But what it came down to is, do you want to dominate your opposite man? Is there something you want to do to get one over on them? Yes, having an attack and sidestepping them is great, but physically manhandling another person and stopping and spoiling their attack, winning the ball back so then we can attack. They were the kind of things I wanted people to get really excited about. So almost turning it into a challenge as opposed to, oh, here we go, we've got to defend again. It's a mental switch, and then it's right. We know what we've got to do. This is what we need to go off the line. We need to be square, and just all of these cues running over in their minds. and just being focused on the challenge as opposed to it being a chore. That's kind of what I started with.
Yeah, fabulous. I mean, you mentioned the amateur game there, but of course, all the way up to the professional levels and the internationals, some of those players are very defensive minded. They're very sort of defense first. I'm thinking of, well, certainly in his early days, people like Courtney Laws was an absolute killer in defense. What are some of your defensive heroes, Higo? Who do you sort of take inspiration from in that regard?
Defensive heroes are is hard. There's so many. I used to like Gavin Henson. He was always quite confrontational, which is one of our philosophies. That's the points that we like to bring across. Um, and back row, I used to play in the back row as well. There's so many in the current game. Like today, like Sam Underhill, for example, just relentless work rate, massive in the contact area. So they're the kind of players that stand out for me when I'm talking about kind of rugby heroes, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you mentioned defensive principles a little bit earlier on there. What are you saying? What underpins the defense that you like to coach?
I think it starts mainly firstly with our philosophies. I mentioned one already as being confrontational. So the mindset first of the philosophy being confrontational, also being able to suffocate defense, which is our second philosophy point, and then also being energized. And I've mentioned that already as well. So there are kind of three pillars, if you will. And then what sits below that is a list of our principles, which all begin with F to keep it nice and simple for those that might not be able to pick that up. So filling the field. So we play a 13-2 shape, which for everyone, that's kind of 13 in the front field, two protecting our back field. So our two pillars at the back would typically situate on the 15-meter channel either side. So they're covering both sides of the pitch. And then 13 at the front are then leading that line. And we lead with what will mostly commonly be known as a blitz or an umbrella defense. So coming high on that outside. Very similar to kind of what England rolled out last year, I think, in terms of trying to get us max pressure up high on the outside, max pressure on ball, force a mistake, or even force an intercept or anything, any kind of turnover ball. So fill the field, fast off the line on the outside edge. And we're very much led by our outside men as well. So we talk about defensive leaders in our team. And for me, it's our outside backs. And we look at when we're in our ideal shape of that 13-2, it's going to be our 12 and 13 on the outside edge with the wingers there. So I know some teams might like to have the wingers in the backfield, but I'm going to try by third phase to have our 10 or 9 along with our 15 in the backfield, everyone else on feet and getting high on the outside and causing max pressure or chaos, as I like to call it. So fill the field, fasten the line, focus. So a big principle of mine and one that stuck with me from my Bournemouth days. Coach we had come in and who's now my mentor, Mike Pope, talks about defending the ball. So focus is all about defend the ball. The ball is the threat. So as long as we're suffocating that option, then we're okay. So a big focus on not trying to worry too much about the players in front of us, protecting our zones, coming up high, but then also being aware of where the ball is. There's too many times that I see it all the time, especially on an amateur game, where we're so focused on defending as wide as we can with the widest man, but it's not necessarily needed at that point. So if we can try and squeeze it tighter, get high as we can, fast off the line, fill the field, then we're doing okay. So focus, another big one. And then also the finish in the tackle. So if we have a double tackle situation, we'll have a chopper and a finisher. So finishing the tackle, making sure we're dominant. So firing through where we can, where possible. We want to be making a dominant tackle behind the gain line, right? So that fire call comes in quite often. And then feet. So feet's kind of the last one I'll end on. And it's just as it sounds, how quickly can we bounce back up, get back onto our feet? In terms of defence, I'm not one to try and encourage too much in terms of the jackal, especially within the 15s. I give us more license when we get into the wider channels and we've got our flankers who are kind of situated there with our centres. In the midfield, it's all about just getting high max pressure, make your tackles, get back to your feet and keep our line. So we're ultimately just trying to make sure we've got 13 men on feet with the time. So if we hear feet, then it usually means shouting from the sideline or on the pitch. We want that person back on their feet, getting in the line and supporting their teammates as quick as possible.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds absolutely comprehensive there. In terms of filling the field and in terms of getting back on your feet, like I guess one of the prime things that might be seen lower down the leagues is people just being a little bit lazy. Like two players almost stood next to each other or behind the ruck and stuff like that. What kind of are you doing anything to try and make sure that doesn't happen, or to try and minimize the moments when players are just too tight together?
Yeah, it's a really good point actually, and one which is something we focused on this pre-season. So last year, when we brought in this defensive structure for the first time, we were very much still in the stages of having to have a guard or one, whatever you want to call it, that's situated by closest to the ruck. Okay, so just we'd situate one, or as we call it, guard, and then we'd have bodyguard and one. Um, and our fold would then mean that the guards stay and everyone that works around them. Whereas this year, I'm trying to eliminate that again, because ultimately what we want is the guards moving across as quick as they can. It's less time for the people coming around and folding around the ruck. So we're calling it a fluid fold to stick with the Fs, of course. So if a fluid's coming across the pitch, once we're in that 13-2 shape, if we're just going side to side, everyone's where they need to be, and no one can afford then to be lazy and stay at guard. So I'll be picking that up tonight in analysis actually from our first preseason game. But we've had a couple of times where we've had to undercut, come round because we've got people lazy off the ground or just situating themselves at guard and not willing to move. So stage one last year, where we brought the defensive structure in, we were aggressive and everything else. The ruck area definitely was a space, or a safe space, I'd say, for some of those type five forwards. I'm going to call them out, where they could maybe get away with staying there. But this year, we're going to be much more active and energized, and look to get round and get off the line as quick as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thinking back to my playing days, those guards were rigid, like even all the way up
Yeah.
to the very top level. Like they never moved, but it was, I don't know, sometime in the last 5 or 6 years, you started seeing it coming in at the professional level. And it's so interesting that now it's sort of filtered down to the lower leagues as well. So yeah, fantastic. And it's almost like you just have to ignore that the rock's there essentially in terms of your defensive line. Is that kind of how you sort of go about it?
Yeah, so a lot of this now is based around timing and when that nine is available, or ball player to move the ball away. So our next call, which is the responsibility of the person standing at guard at the time, will be fixed. So when we know the ball's in a position ready to be played, we're probably done, and that's the numbers we've got available from that fold. So we then fix. We can then call our guard, bodyguard one from there, and then look to get off the line, and we know our placements from there. Same system as what we've had before.
Ah, yeah, interesting. That's good. Okay, just let's just talk a little bit about you then, Higo. In terms of you're still playing, right? That's correct.
Still playing, yep.
Yeah, yeah. So what's it like being a player coach in your experience?
I think I've had probably a slightly different introduction to what most people have. I think, especially at the amateur games, I think we see a lot of people who will play at a club for 10, 15 years and then become player coach of that club. So I obviously came across from Bournemouth at the start of last season. So I had a season where I brought in the defensive structure, but I wasn't necessarily part of the coaching team, but I was very much just a player at that time. So I've had a year with the guys to introduce the system, and then we've evolved it now for this preseason, where I've come on as a fully fledged player coach. So I've had a year with the guys, maybe not the history that you'd usually have with a club. So the guys have been really receptive, really good. The attitude's amazing in training. So it's been quite an easy transition for me to just come in and lead on drills and not have the fear of, oh, these are my mates. How are they going to take this? And which was something that I did think about, and I was quite conscious of, because there are some guys who have come over from Bournemouth as well. So that side of it, I think, was quite I was uncertain. I don't think I was exactly. I was probably a little bit anxious about that situation, but it seems to be okay in the way that I've approached it. Um, in terms of like playing as well as coaching, I think trying to find time to join in with drills and be involved as a player, it has kind of slowed up on that respect. So I want to be involved, and I do want to make sure I'm match ready. So that's something I'm still challenged by, and I don't have the answer right now. So I think, is anyone else within your podcast audience that can take me through that, then that would be great. But yeah, the head coach Kieran Spencer is doing what he can to support that transition, because it's not just myself. We've also got another player coach in Sammy Veneroso who's leading the attack. So we're both in the same boat, and I'm sure we'll take some learnings, and with the guidance of Kieran, we'll get there.
Yeah, I did it for a year actually towards the end of my playing career, and I found it very difficult. Like I didn't find a solution to just the slight lack of training and just focus on training as a player, because you've always got the fact that you're going to lead
Yeah.
this drill or lead that bit later in the session. It just sort of splits a little bit too far again. I wouldn't say it affected me too badly, but it was different. It was different.
Yeah, and I'm not getting any younger either, so just making sure my conditioning's at a level which I feel comfortable to play. Because we've been promoted this year, so the level's risen. The game will be faster. There's no doubting that. So I want to make sure I'm ready, and when I'm fit to play, I'll play. But equally, if there's boys, and the squad's looking quite good this year. So if there's people available in my position that can play, and I can take a step back, whether that's on the bench or in a coaching capacity, then I really don't mind. It's just whatever's best for the team, and how we can approach each game.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned you signed from Bournemouth there. For those that don't know, that's a pretty local rival to Ellingham and Ringwood down here in Dorset. What precipitated the move? What was the choice you made there?
There was a mixture of things, and I played at Bournemouth for most of my playing days or career, if you call it career. So started there at Colts, played various games in the senior, apart from travelling away and coming back. But it's always felt like home. All the guys there I'm great mates with, I still am. It got to a point where the coaching staff had changed so dramatically, to a point where it wasn't what I remember it to be. I wasn't enjoying my rugby. It become a bit more of a chore for me. So turning up wasn't as attractive. And to couple that, I was expecting the birth of my son. So he's now a year and a half. So in my mind, it was, I'm going to stop playing for now. I'm going to go find another local club, maybe not take it as seriously. Um, you know, try and wind down and play when I want to. Fast forward a year, we're promoted at Ellingham Ringwood. I'm leading the defence, and now I'm player coach. So take from that what you will. But the idea of finding a lower level hasn't really worked, because now we're in the same league as Bournemouth. So it's going to be interesting. So still a lot of my pals and people that I've played with and been coached by are still there. So it'll be a really interesting year for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Congratulations on the promotion. Now, you mentioned you'd be happy to take a little step backwards, maybe sit on the bench, but I'm guessing that won't be the case when the Bournemouth fixtures come up.
No, definitely available for Bournemouth fixtures, and for Wimborne, because we've also got Wimborne in our league this year as well as a Dorset rival. So it'll be good. Some really good matchups this year.
Now, when you were at Bournemouth, obviously they run a phenomenal sevens weekend during the summer. Is that something that you were involved in, and how so?
Playing wise, yes. It's very much its a whole own entity in terms of the way it's run in terms of an event. So the rugby club has very little to do with that. There was occasions where we were integrated as part of like the main team in the National Cup, and there's usually like a sponsors team that usually feeds in a few Bournemouth players. So I've played there many times for various teams. A couple of shout outs. I think one for Herne Airport Windsox, which a sevens team made up of local lads. So they'll appreciate that. But they're still up and running, and they attend there every year.
Yeah, fantastic. It is, for people that don't know, it is a massive event, really, isn't it? It's huge in terms of, there's netball as well, isn't there? And there's like music and everything.
There's all sorts now, yeah. I'm trying to think of this. Like dodgeball, they have dodgeball there. There's so many different sports, and it's become definitely more of like an event as opposed to a rugby sevens festival. So I think Bournemouth Sevens has kept the name, but it's very much, we go there for the entertainment. And rugby-wise, I haven't been a part of the rugby for a couple of years now, but definitely will pick that one up again soon. Maybe in a coaching capacity now, when I'm a little bit older.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we mentioned that you've had a bit of a nomadic journey of your rugby. Who else have you played for? Where else have you been?
all over really. I ended up playing over in Canada for 2.5 years. There was a player who I played with at Bournemouth who recommended to go over one summer. So I ended up going and went again and again. So the 3 seasons over there in the end, um, for a team called St. Albert over in Alberta. So that was a really, really good experience because I think in terms of playing there, it's very much amateur, but you've also got guys who are falling out of um, kind of their version of the NFL, which is CFL. So you'd have some proper athletes playing and competing in the league, just trying to find a new sport. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where it's people who've never really played rugby, and coming together. It's a real mixed bunch. So it was a really good environment, really good people, but very much amateur game, and coaching from kind of grassroots rugby, really. Um, and then from there, I came back and played Bournemouth for another year before I went away to Australia. So when I was in Australia, I played for a couple of clubs. I played at Brothers in Brisbane for half a season, I think it was, until kind of work options ran out. So I ended up moving away. Went and did our kind of farm work down south in New South Wales. So I ended up playing some country rugby for the Cowra Eagles. And that was really, really good fun. It was 3 or 4 months we were there for over the winter. So anyone who doesn't know, you go to Australia, you're expecting sunshine and great weather all the time. Central West, very much inland from kind of Sydney and everything else. The winter is harsh, very harsh. So we were having games with snow and frost, and it was really good. um, and then after that, ended up going back up the coast to the Gold Coast and playing for Bond University in the Queensland Premier League there. Um, Really enjoyed it. So I did the season there under some great coaches. One being Sean Hedger, who was the Melbourne Rebels coach once upon a time. So ended up learning a lot from them. And the game in Australia, very, very, very strangely, they have their Super Rugby, but then everything below that, so Queensland Premier or Shoot Shield, is all very much amateur. So you'll have the players from the Reds, for example, coming down and feeding into those teams within the Brisbane and Gold Coast leagues, but it's still very much an amateur league. So you get to play against the likes. When I was there, Radiki Samu, for example, was still playing. Tanalea Tupu was coming through the ranks. I remember going to a gym session at Brothers with him involved, and he's doing sledges onto the tire, and the tire is coming out 6 foot off the ground because the man's a monster. So there's a definite kind of disparity there, but the way they manage it, they've got so many different teams, and you can kind of feed into what you build. So it was a really good playing experience in Australia, and kind of helps me with my attacking game because shock horror, I've always been more of a defensive player, I'd say, than I have an attacking one. It's kind of why I've gone into defence, but the expansive game there was really good to learn from, and then also um, to learn from in an attacking sense, but also from a defensive point of view. How do I deal with this? When you've got so much space and speed of ball and dry ground, how do I combat this? Is blitz the right option, or do I need to try and usher them out to an edge? So definitely a lot of learning from there. Um, I'm still going. So when I came back to England, um, just sent over my CV and tried to look for opportunities over here. Um, Ended up having a chat with Cornish Pirates. So I went down there and was kind of made up part of their training squad, really, bit of like a trialist. But I was there for a majority of the season, and then played my weekend rugby with Redruth and a bit with Camborne as well. So that was really, really interesting because for me it was, I love rugby. I want to play professionally. I was in this environment as part of the training squad, and it just didn't click for me. It's one of those. Obviously, didn't get asked to stay on, which is fine. But everything I learned there was great. The coaches there, Alan Paver, Gav Cattle, they were great with me. They didn't give me any false promises. It was, you're here, train with the lads, see how you go, play your weekend rugby at Redruth or Camborne, we'll review. And they were really good in that sense. So I think a lot of my coaching philosophy and the way that I coach now, I try and think back to the sessions that I had there. Maybe part of that kind of social learning theory of, can I take what they introduced and bring it back to an amateur club and maybe adapt it to be suitable for the guys that I'm trying to coach, because I think there is a place for high performance within an amateur setting, whether that's watering it down or putting players to the side that want to take it that step further and introducing different aspects to the game or detail that they might want to hear. Because I think if you neglect that, then they'll never know. You only know what you know. Um, so I think I've taken parts of that and really tried to put it in. Um, and then that's what led me back after that kind of situation didn't really materialize into anything. I came back to Bournemouth, played at Bournemouth for a couple of seasons, and then ended up here at Ellingham Ringwood.
Wow, what a story! What a journey that has been. Right, I'm going to pick you up straight away on the one of the last things you said there because I find it really interesting. This idea of cherry picking ideas from the coaches or the playing environments that you've been in to then go and coach at a lower level. It took me a while to realise that not everything you see on the telly or that the professionals are doing is appropriate to a sort of a grassroots club. How did you come to that sort of realization as quickly as you did? Because it's really important.
Yeah, I think the way I really found out was probably last year. That was I call that my transition year because I was kind of not part of the coaching team, but leading on the defensive structure. So it allowed me to have that time to sit back and listen in and just observe and see what people took in. And I instantly picked up from our analysis sessions, simple things like, oh, we didn't make it to the gain line here. And then someone would, what's the gain line? And it's like, okay, right. I need to really pull this back and see how I can adapt this. So uh, with those kind of learnings and just observation from year one, and there were some drills I brought in, it just didn't work. We bring something in, I wanted to do this and that, and the players just wouldn't respond, or they wouldn't openly tell you that they don't understand, but they'd try and run through it, and it's kind of going through the motions, and you're not really getting the output that you want from that drill or that session. And I've tried to be quite open with it as well, and I'll contact players after training sessions to say, how do you think this went? Did you understand what I was trying to say when we talk about this? Can I deliver it differently? So I'm quite open to that kind of 360 feedback and making sure people are heard and I can get their points of view. And that's also ranging from, first team potential right through to vets if they're turning it to training. How did you find it? What can I do better? So I'd say probably that observation and just that 360 feedback has made me realise what works, what can I bring in from a high level, and what can't I. So yeah, I think that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. Yeah, so you're just really paying attention to what's going on because, of course, the other sort of aspect to this is the game looks different at that level compared to what it looks like at the grassroots level. It's just primarily it's kind of essentially the same, but it's really not.
Yeah, and you just triggered a memory of mine there. And you're back to the training with Pirates days. They've not had a great result in their fixture in the week, and we've come to training that week, and it's like, right, kick transition defense. We're practicing this today. When you're all out on the field in 10 minutes, the pitch had been painted on with 5 meter channel lines all the way down the pitch, and it was right into your 5 meter channel. We're going to kick, and you're going to chase and stay in your channel. And every time we're disconnected or someone doesn't stay to their channel, we're back and we're doing fitness. And I think it was kind of Malcolm's at that time. So it wasn't a great result. And Alan Paver had come in and said, right, 5 meter channels, go. Every time we're wrong, back to the line, whistle goes, we're doing sprints. So I'm not even playing on the weekend here. I'm just turning up for training. So it's that. But it's stuff like that, the detail and the kind of drilling you get after it is something you wouldn't take into the amateur game. It's something you might talk about, and you'll do some drills and look at scenarios and situations in the game where we can improve. But that kind of punishment for game related events is not going to go down well in an amateur game.
No, then people won't have that, will they? They just won't come.
They'll try and come back.
Exactly, yeah. Got to get them back, right? Okay, back to Canada, Higgins. So we talked here about Pirates being like a quite high performance team and a lot of players that have got a lot of playing experience. Of course, in Canada, I'm sure there's a lot of players there that haven't got many rugby years in them.
Yeah.
How did you approach that? Did you find yourself almost doing some coaching over there as well?
Yeah, I think naturally you find yourself leading players bringing them in. And as I said before, I've been defensive minded, and I think most teams I've played in, I've been deemed the defensive leader. So I'll kind of give those instructions of when we need to press hard, when we need to be more reserved or control, as we call it, just to usher a player out. And because they're so kind of football or in Canada's case, hockey focused as well, it's all about confrontation. The contact area was never an issue; it was positioning. So it's just pulling a player to you, or physically like grabbing your 12 and saying, get to me, get close to me, get close to me. We need to be here. Um, and then just minor instruction throughout a game. But I never really got involved in terms of coaching because I was still quite young when I went out there. I think I went out from the age of kind of 20 through to 20 to 23. I was when I was there. So still just playing my games and just where I needed to help and direct some of the players on the pitch.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Australia. Brothers is a very famous club over there in Australia. What was it like to play for them?
Really good. So I arrived just in time for pre-season, and just having that kind of experience of Bournemouth in the National Leagues. They said, come and train with our Premier Reserves, Premier grades, which is where I got to see the likes of Tupu and all the rest of them. Um, Again, just different world. You turn up, they give you your jersey. You're in red jersey tonight. Keep that on. Every drill is kind of focused around your units and kind of playing level, I'd say, and then it's brought back together in a game. But everything, in between drills, everyone's quite jovial. But as soon as you're there within a drill and it's live, it's serious stuff. The coaches don't take any shit there. It is very much. Um, full whack, and it's. I always remember just one drill, and it's such a silly thing, but just fitting pads. But what they had them doing is the pad man would run with about 10 meters at the defensive line before a contact was made. None of this kind of soak up the bag, go through the motion. It is, I want these bags running full pelt, and if they're not knocked back, you're not doing the right thing in defence. So the physicality over there was next level. And Brothers, especially, kind of known, I think, they're nicknamed the Filth. So a lot of the teams in that league just do not like Brothers, and that's because they're so good. They're so disciplined, and they're aggressive, and there's a lot of that I really admired, and also try and pull over into our philosophy. So stuff like being confrontational in particular is one of those, which will always take me back to those kind of sessions and how bruised my shoulders would be from those pads running 10 meters at me before I can make a tackle. So and that coupled with the fact that you've got teams in the Brisbane Premier League which are made up predominantly of Islanders, so you have to make your tackles, or you're going to be looking silly on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how did you respond to that kind of training environment? How did you find it?
With Brothers, I found it really hard because that was my first taste of Australian rugby. So I'd come from obviously playing in the winter at Bournemouth to summer, in Australia, and I was very much thrown to the wolves. Especially, I remember my first pre-season game for them, and I thought I'd read a play and I'm flying off the line and I'm going for an intercept and I've completely missed it and they're running through and they're under the posts. And that was my first involvement. And I was like, okay, I need to really take a look at myself here. And the pace of the game was just next level. And, I'd come from Bournemouth and Exeter Uni and, lucky enough to play a few Bucks Prem's game with that Exeter Uni, and the pace of the game there was fast. But in Australia, dry track, and those boys are just brought up playing that in that way. It was just, I need to really kind of dial in and focus now.
It's an interesting thing you say there about being brought up playing that way. Countries do have rugby cultures, don't they? And that is very much the Australian way. And did you see that being almost encouraged all the way through to sort of the top level? Or was it kind of a case, right, we need to fill in some gaps here with, I don't know, set piece, physicality, defence to sort of really merge that attacking intent?
I saw it all the way through. I played at 3 clubs when I was in Australia, all very much the same in terms of the culture and the way that they want to play rugby. I've referenced Exeter Uni and bits like that, and Pirates, and 2 clubs which have a very good kicking game. We look at Exeter Chiefs from a few years ago, very much built around the box kick, and people would be like, "Oh, it's so boring." What is this? And they're not afraid in Australia to throw it around. A run exit is a better exit than giving the ball away for them, holding on to possession. Whereas in England, we're definitely more structured in how we build the phases and how we get into good positions. So I was kind of taking that learning of extra days and thinking about that into Australia, and it just didn't fly. So trying to play in that way when you're surrounded by players who have been brought up with an attacking culture and mindset, I was very much on the back foot. So it definitely did wonders for my game from that point, coming back to, and I think you've probably asked any of the Bournemouth coaches I've had over the years. I think probably the turning point for me was when I came back from Australia, as opposed to the years that I played before that point. And I'd recommend anyone who's listening and is thinking about doing it and going away, not that I want you to leave your clubs, but do a year abroad. Australia is a great place to go. New Zealand, I'm sure, will be very similar learnings. So definitely wouldn't change a thing about what I've done there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, travel and rugby go hand in hand, and I would thoroughly encourage anybody who's even thinking about it to go and explore opportunities, because there are loads of opportunities nowadays as well to go and do it. Okay, mate, let's bring this back to defence, your first love.
Yeah.
Have you got any thoughts on the England defensive changes over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years? Because there's been, I don't know, a revolution and then like an evolution, I would say. What's your take on it?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't really put England as my my kind of example to look at. When they brought in that kind of umbrella high on the outside shape, that it kind of went south really for them. I don't think it was really the way forward for the type of players that we had. So I can relate more there. I'm more used to watching the likes of an Ireland or a France now under Sean Edwards, and kind of missed him off of my defensive heroes, didn't I, earlier in the podcast? But he's an obvious one. So in terms of England, I'll put it back to you, Tim. What have you noticed? What do you think of the England setup at the moment?
Well, I think they went incredibly aggressive, and they looked to me like they were going to just back it and just keep going and make
Yeah,
mistakes until they got it right. But then they changed tack. I can't remember exactly, it was maybe a year ago now, and they sort of just pared it back a little bit. They just got a little bit more sensible. They were still very, very aggressive when the time was right, but then they were also happy to sort of show the opposition the touchline when they didn't have enough numbers. So I think they're in a good place right now. And the defensive work in that Argentina tour this summer was outstanding. They looked really good in defence.
yeah. I think it comes back again to the levels you're playing. So when we talk about being aggressive at every opportunity we can, hopefully when we're numbers up, or at least if we've got one number out wide, we're not too worried about them. So if we can get high and put off the ball player, when you're looking at professional level, if that 10 or ball player has got 2 seconds of time to then notice the ball over the top, it's an option every time. So at the professional and especially the international level, it's a risky business to be going hard often. And although it was very exciting at times for England, and I think Theo Bosa got a couple of interceptions on the outside at times. And when you make a hit man and ball, it looks great. Um, it doesn't make up for the mistakes that can happen, or the tries that you'll leak. So come back to defense wins titles, and attack wins games. So it's it's a small change, but if one person within that process or system lets you down, then you're really struggling. And we found it for us in our first pre-season game. It's the inside press wasn't strong enough to put enough pressure on the ball carrier, and they were finding opportunities. So simple fix for that for us was, right, we're going to really hammer down line speed this next session. We're going to be chewing the five. Can we get in their face as quick as possible whilst still having the outside as high and in the eye line as possible as well? So yeah, we've actually got, I think England's definitely the right choice to rein it back in and kind of pick their moments. And I'm all for that. Kind of, if you're man down 100%, you've got to slow it down, assess the options, let them play, see if you can get them across to an edge channel, and then hopefully we can get an opportunity to get back into, from an Ellingham Ringwood point of view, our 13-2 shape, to then be progressive and get forward again. You got to
Yeah,
learn it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, mate, we will end that bit of the show now, and we're going to go on to the stash section. So what is your favourite kit of all time? This can be any team from any era.
I wrote this down because I had to remember it and do a bit of research actually. So Bath 2004 home kit. So they had the black fawn with the hooped bottom, and you could get it in long sleeve as well. So it was one of my favourite tops I remember. So yeah, it's definitely my favourite shirt. I think it's going to be up
Very specific. I love that. I love the year as
there.
well. I think I've got a picture of it in my mind. Actually, yeah, that was a good one. Bath is a very popular choice for favourite kit. I think because they've stayed pretty traditional with their kits
Yeah.
throughout the year. I think that's probably why
Yeah.
they come up all the time. Yeah. Okay, next one. What about awful kits? Kits that you particularly dislike at the moment?
Um, the Wales 2025 quartered kit. So it's different shades of red. It's not like I'm not a big fan of the Harlequins kit in general, but the quartered kind of same shade or same color but different shade just doesn't it's not doing anything for me.
Yeah, okay, fine. Good stuff. And what about your favourite stash that you've ever received? So this could be something that you've earned or something that was gifted to you.
Um, Definitely not. It was Exeter Uni pre-season. Keith Fleming, the team manager, will bring the Chiefs stash from the season before, so it was just a free for all. So yeah, I got some Chiefs stash from that. Yeah, I've still got some of it now, I think, and that was probably the best day ever. Everyone likes a stash day, so big bin bag. Help yourselves. Pick out some shorts. They fit. Happy days.
Oh, that must have been like a feeding frenzy. Was that like
Oh,
people getting aggressive and stuff in there, trying to get the
it's
best stuff?
horrendous. Yeah, yes, definitely. You can imagine it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, mate. As we bring this to a close, is there any kind of final thoughts that you wanna share with the audience?
I think go back to your point about traveling, playing rugby abroad. I think the learnings and memories you get from playing abroad and different cultures and playing styles is invaluable. I think it helps you in any kind of situation. So if you're playing rugby at a high performance level or amateur, going abroad, playing with different people and different cultures is definitely recommended. Um, More people should be doing it. They should be shouting about. I'm not one to kind of keep players here if they don't, if they're thinking about going. We've got some at Ellingham Ringwood who are leaving around Christmas time. It's like, where are you going? Like, I'm put in touch with the coach. Like, I know another guy here. Like this, the rugby network's so big and it is global. It's a small world, and there's always opportunities wherever you're going. So definitely get out there and do your thing.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you on that. Now then, if people want to get a hold of you, maybe they want to contact at Brothers or something like that, or they want to talk about defence, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, drop me an email or find me on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, my email I'm sure we can share after. But yeah, please get in touch. Any questions? If you want to talk defence as well, I'm a nose for it, as you can probably tell. So the more I can learn, the more I can share, the better.
Wonderful stuff, mate. Thank you so much. And people listening at home, everything that we've mentioned will be linked down in the show notes and at amateurrugbypodcast.com. So just leaving to say, Higo, thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you so much for having me, Tim.
Very welcome. There he goes. God, I love a bit of passion about rugby, and like passion for defence is a really special thing. And those travel stories as well. I can't back up that enough. Like playing rugby around the world is a wonderful thing. I've played not for specific teams, but I've played all over the world in lots of different countries, and it's always been a wonderful experience. So if there's an opportunity out there for you, go and grab it. Now then, over on YouTube, we are doing lots of talk about the elite end of the game. So get over there if you want to hear my thoughts about what's happening. It's the Rugby Championship at the moment, but I'll be covering the Premiership and the Autumn Internationals and everything going forward. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can do all the social media stuff. The likes, the subscribes, all that, the forwards. But what I'd really like is if you mention it to someone in person the next time you're down your local rugby club. So until then, get out and play.